And our word for today on this Thursday of the 32nd week in Ordinary Time, this Thursday, November the 14th, our word for today is brother. And here to talk about it, Andrew Reinhart. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, David and Ron. How are you?
Doing great. How about you?
Doing great.
Good.
Our word for the day is brother. And I wanted to start with our gospel today, actually, though, even though this is from our first reading. It says, he asked by the Pharisees, when the kingdom of God will come, Jesus said in reply, the kingdom of God cannot be observed, and no one will announce, look, here it is, or there it is. For behold, the kingdom of God is among you. And he ends this up by prophesying his passion. But first he must suffer greatly and be rejected by this generation. So this idea of the kingdom of God is so interesting. One, it's using a term here that's familiar. The idea of a kingdom, right? The kingdom having a king, having some kind of boundaries, a city, walls, an army, and part of the kingdom, especially for these ancient peoples, was safety, security. The kingdom would provide, more safety than your tribe would, because it'd have maybe a bigger food supply, a larger army, et cetera, et cetera. But the form of the kingdom in the ancient world took a specific form. And this is where this idea of the kingdom of God that Jesus is sort of vague about, because he's pointing to something deeper, something different. Right? In the ancient kingdom, the king was sort of like a god. He was worshipped by the people, and the people were more or less his slaves. And in this relationship of really power and domination, then although the people would give of their time, their energy, their money, their lives, and what they would get in return is safety, survival. They would get food, they would get protection, etc. And Jesus is introducing a new idea here, and we see this in our first reading, where it talks about Onesimus being the brother. The brother. This man, based on the reading, we could imply that he was a slave. He was a slave. And Paul refers to Philemon as his brother, and then refers to Onesimus as his son. As his son. And he wants to give Onesimus back to Philemon, but he wants to do it in this new form, in this new structure, as a son. So in God's kingdom, the structures and the orders of power and domination are replaced by orders of family and orders of love. Right? So what before was a slave is now a son. That's our relationship with God, our Father. What before was domination is now love. Right? Jesus must go and suffer for us. The king is going to go die for his people. But you see how Jesus is both using something that is familiar to these people, but also flipping it on its head. And in this this idea of brother, of son, of child, right? God is trying to describe something about his love for us, his relationship with us. We proclaim Christ as King. We're approaching this great feast in our liturgical calendar, the last feast of the liturgical year before Advent. Right? But in that kingship, right, we are adopted sons and daughters. Meaning we're brought into the royal family, right? We're kind of princes and princesses. We're given, and then in that we're given stewardship. Right? So there's certain modern rejections of this idea, right? In ways that we've taken on forms of the culture to reject this kind of kingship of domination. Might think of something like Marxism. And it does away with the excesses of classical liberalism and ownership and property and, the kind of abusive domination of nature and et cetera, by doing away with property, by doing away with hierarchy, by doing away with authority, in a conceptual form at least. But the gospel does not do that. Right? Hierarchy is not abolished by the kingdom. Hierarchy is redeemed in the kingdom. Ownership isn't abolished in the kingdom. Ownership is redeemed and replaced with the idea of stewardship. So as we reflect on this gospel today in our own lives, Think of it both ways. Do we experience ourselves as God's children? But then also, do we love the world around us in a way that we're true stewards of it? So our word for the day is brother.
I love it. I mean, all of it fabulous, but ownership redeemed and replaced by stewardship. I mean, such a different understanding of what our relationship is, not only to God, but with each other. And that's what I love so much about the first reading, is this explanation of Paul to say, once a slave, but not a slave anymore. He's your brother. And just a reminder to all of us.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Wonderful reflection as always.
Thank you. Have a blessed week, everyone.
God bless you.